Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima Tavali. On today's show, we will be reacting to all of the weekend's Serie A action, a thrilling weekend. At the top of the table, Inter throw away a 2-goal lead at Parma. That gives Napoli the chance to close the gap on Monday when they play against Bologna. The race for the top four is as hot as ever. Atalanta continue to collapse. They lose a third game in a row to Lazio, who end their poor run of form. Juventus and Roma play out an absorbing 1-1 draw at the Stadio Olimpico. There's another crazy comeback as Milan recovered from 2 goals down to draw 2-2 against Fiorentina in what was one of the games of the season. We will also preview the European quarterfinals, 3 Italian teams in action, with the biggest of all, of course, being Inter's trip to play Bayern Munich in the Champions League in Germany. We'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie ASS of the week. Okay, so a heads up to all of the Serie A fans in the UK and Ireland. You can stream every single match live on OneFootball. No matter which team you are backing, OneFootball's got you covered. You can watch on via the OneFootball app on your phone or connected TVs from Apple TV, Google TV, Samsung, LG and Fire TV, or on the website tv.onefootball. And what's even better is that you can choose how to watch it. You can grab a team or season pass to watch all the matches until the end of the season, or just the ones from your favourite club. There's also a match day pass for £9.99 to watch all the weekend's games, or a single match on pay-per-view for £4.99. And if you miss the live game, you'll still get access to all the match highlights too. So if Serie A is your thing, which I assume it is as you're watching this show, OneFootball is where it's at. We have a link in the description of the episode for you to buy your preferred stream. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week without any ads, including our weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $3.99 a month plus VAT. You can also now sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify for the same price. The link is in the description. You can now also watch us on YouTube. This is our first show that we're doing that you can watch us on YouTube. It might be the last if the time it's taken us to get this show, taken us nearly an hour to set this up. I have to say, I hate technology. It's driven me mad. I'm already stressed for the week ahead. So if this happens again next week, Nima, we won't do it again, I'm telling you. But yeah, we are on YouTube now. And you can actually also be a patron on YouTube via YouTube memberships. Just go to our YouTube channel if you're listening on youtube.com/@itafootballpod for more details. And for all of you that listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. And on YouTube as well, please do subscribe and do like our content there as well when you watch it, and because all of that really helps us to grow and do more quality content for you guys. Just one more announcement before we start. Today, we have a new member of the Italian Football Podcast. His name is Alfredo Marabese, and he will be our digital and social content creator. So a big welcome to Alfredo. We will get him on the pod soon so you can all meet him, but you will see him really straight away starting to produce content on our socials and on YouTube. Thank you everyone that did apply. We had so many applications. It was mad. so many top quality people that were applying. And honestly, if we could, we would have appointed probably about 10 of you, because there were so many incredible people out there. And obviously we hope that, in the future we can do things together with you guys. And if we can build our team, if we continue to grow, because it was unbelievable, really, the level, the quality. So big thank you to everyone who did apply. And if you've not already, do follow us on our socials, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I hate to say it, we're also on TikTok as well. So I ain't got a clue how to use TikTok, but
this is why Alfredo is here, so he can do that.
Alfredo,
you don't need to worry about it.
He's a bit younger than us, so he knows how to use TikTok.
It wouldn't have taken him 50 minutes to sort out StreamYard, I'll tell you that much.
No. Oh, man. I'm stressed. Anyway, let's get into today's show. So we'll start off with all the top four stuff, and then we'll get to Inter towards the end, because then I want to then go into the preview for the Champions League game. I think the two kind of go together well. So we'll start off with the top four. We'll start off with the Sunday evening game, Roma against Juventus at the Stadio Olimpico. It ends 1-1. I thought it was, even though it was a game of not many chances, clear chances, I thought it was an absorbing game. I enjoyed it. I thought it ebbed and flowed. Periods of the game where Juventus were on top, periods of the game where Roma were on top. I thought ultimately, I thought Juventus was slightly the better team, but I thought ultimately the draw was the fair result. I don't think there was a real deserved winner of this game. But if we start off from the Juventus perspective, Nima, I think there were positives, lots of positives for Juve. I think they will be happy with the performance. I think it was definitely a step performance. This is Tudor's second game in charge, Igor Tudor. It was a step forward, 2 steps forward from their performance against Genoa, which was all about just the result, getting the win. In this game, I thought that the level of the performance, if they can maintain this level of performance for the last 7 games of the season, I'm confident that they'll get top 4. Obviously, that's the big question. Can they maintain the level of performance? This one game. And we haven't seen that at all this season from Juventus. We've had many false dawns where they've had good performances in big games, and you think, right, this is the turning point. The Inter game, the Milan game, Leipzig, Man City, so many of these games, and they've never been able to maintain it. So that's the big question. But if we break down the actual performance itself, I think it was a team that showed much more courage than we saw under Thiago Motta, much more intensity, much more organization than we saw in the latter days of Thiago Motta. It was a team that also didn't fall apart at the first sign of struggle, i.e. the equaliser from Roma. Motta's teams, as soon as the other teams score or equalise or take the lead, they fell apart mentally. They couldn't react. And I liked the way that they reacted to that goal. They 5 minutes after, Roma were a little bit on top, and then Juventus took over, and Juventus finished the game stronger and looked like the team that would win the game if they would win it. So all in all, I saw a team from Juventus, and I think that's something that they can take forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, look, I think I kind of agree with all of that. I don't think there's much more to add other than, for me, there's certain things I like. The back three, I think, is something Juventus should probably consider moving forward with. Especially if you take into consideration that they have an injured Bremer coming back. We know that Bremer is at his best in a back three, in the middle of a back three. But other than that, I thought the way that the midfield was used, I really liked Locatelli in this game. I thought that was a good goal. He has a good shot on him. I think Tudor has used the midfield pretty well. Look, I think ultimately, do they make top 4? This was a very important draw for Roma, for Juve, not to lose, given that Lazio beat Atalanta, given that Fiorentina took a point away against Milan, given that Bologna, well, by the time most people are watching or listening to this, they will know what Bologna have done against Napoli, because a win for Bologna puts them in third, a point above Atalanta even. So it's it was important for Juve not to lose, and I thought they, when they took the lead, I thought if they can win this, then that's essentially kicking Roma out of the race, but they weren't able to. But if you look at the number of games they got left, I think, and the opposition they've got left, I feel fairly comfortable saying that, you know what, I think Juve will finish in the top 4, maybe even third, because the other teams have much more difficult run-ins and more games. Lazio have the Europa League and a difficult fixture list. Roma have the most difficult fixture list. Atalanta are in the middle, in the middle of their nightmare run, not just fixture list wise, but also results wise. And Fiorentina, they're a little bit behind, but still, So I think
Bologna have Coppa Italia as well.
Yeah, they do. But I mean, that's already, they're in the final. I mean, they, the Empoli game, they just made mincemeat out of Empoli in 50 minutes, and then that was it. So they're going to rotate heavily. But I'm talking about the fixture list that they've got coming up. They've got Inter, Napoli, and so on. So no, I think this was important for Juve, because the fixture list kind of gives them a little bit of a breather, and it's a Juve that has been in crisis pretty much all season. So whatever breathers they can get and whatever alleviates the pressure for Juve is a good thing for them. So no, I think it was a good result. I think it was a decent performance.
Yeah.
It was
I think there were positives individually. I thought, like you said, Locatelli needs to score more goals. He has to. It's insane. This was his first goal for 18 months. Now, I'm sorry, but for someone that's got a powerful shot, a good long shot, he has. We saw in the Euros, when Italy won the Euros, that we saw he can score goals from the edge of the area or even further out than that. It's not acceptable for him to have 2 goals in 3 seasons at Juventus. But
Juventus midfielders just don't score. I mean, that's the problem. Juve's midfielders just don't score enough, and that's what they were supposed to address.
Has been a problem for many years. I mean,
they were supposed to address that with Douglas Luiz and Thuram and Cup Miners and so on, and they haven't. This season.
Yeah. Thuram has chipped in with a few goals this season, but not enough from the midfielders, not enough from Locatelli at all. But I thought Locatelli and Thuram were really good in centre midfield. Really good battle with Cornet. I thought Kalulu was man of the match. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. Apart from which we'll come to, the collective responsibility on the goal they conceded, but he made 3 massive challenges in this game. One, an incredible block in the first half from Cristante, and another couple where he was covering in the second half. He was brilliant. I thought also, we make fun. Lord Kelly wasn't Lord Kelly; it was Lloyd Kelly today. Or on Sunday. I thought he was really good, and I actually think in a back 3, that suits him. The left of a back 3. I thought he was actually. I think he won every single duel. I was looking at the stats. Every single duel, aerially and on the ground, he won in this game. I thought he was really, really good. So I think they found probably the system that gets the best out of him. And the other positive, I thought Nico Gonzalez in these 2 games has looked better. He showed more under Tudor in these 2 games than he did in the entirety of under Motta. So I thought he was good as well. So those are the positives for me, but the negatives, two negatives. One is the normal, but both of them are the normal for what we've seen this season. Corners and set pieces. Juventus has been horrendous all season. They've been legitimately one of the worst teams in Serie A, both attacking and defending set pieces this season. In fact, they've only Monza have scored less goals than Juventus from set pieces this season, but also defensively, they've let in so many goals from set pieces and crosses this season, especially at the back post. And again, it's a shame because they were really organised and really solid all game, and they let in such a stupid goal. And Dika unmarked, and then Shomurdov gambles, and there's no one. Everyone's sleeping for the rebound. Tudor said at the end of the game, in fact, Tudor said all week, Tudor said that this is what they've been working on, set pieces all week. But he also said at the end of this game against Roma that when he came in, there wasn't enough time to organise everything and change the set pieces. So he's basically until now, until this week, just gone with the set piece arrangement that Motta had. So obviously it's going to take time to sort that out. And that's cost Juventus so much this season, and it did again in this game. So set pieces are a problem, and then Dusan Vlahovic. What else is there to say about Dusan Vlahovic that we haven't already said? Just repeat.
I really think that, and I think it's, the question is now, does he leave on a free transfer? And he sits out his contract because he's got a massive pay boost in his last year of a contract at Juve. He's the one who, with all the leverage in terms of financial gain, he's got absolutely no need or use to leave Juve. So he can negotiate whatever the hell he wants. I think he's going to make something like 12, 13, or even 14 million euros net in his last year at Juve. So he has no reason whatsoever to tear up that contract in the final year. But when he leaves on a free transfer, or whenever he leaves, whether it's in the summer on a free transfer, I think if you take into consideration the expectation, the price, he might be the biggest flop in Juventus's history. I really struggle to think of anyone who cost that much, was supposed to have such an impact, that Juventus sold 2 players to sign, that they have paid this much money to, that has been a bigger flop. I really can't remember who that would be.
I think he's up there. I mean, you look at the cost. What was it? 80 million that Juventus spent for Vlahovic, and we're now in how many? Third season now? Was it fourth season? Third full season, isn't it? Since Vlahovic joined, and it's a disaster.
And it doesn't seem to matter who the coach is. Tudor believes in him. People blame Allegri, but this is now Motta. This is now Tudor. This is even with Serbia. I mean,
Serbia. How many goals has he scored for Serbia in the last year or two?
He's absolutely dreadful.
He's a disaster. And I said last week on the pod that this is a guy, and we saw it again against Roma. Like, his hold-up play is so bad. It's like he's fighting with his own body just to control that ball. He's fighting with his body just to coordinate himself to get into the position to try and miscontrol the ball. I mean, he's
fighting his own demons, his inner demons to control the ball.
He's that bad, and he offers nothing. He offers absolutely nothing, and Juventus were doing well to move up the pitch, but again, everything just breaks down as soon as it gets to Vlahovic, and even in the air, I don't think he's even particularly great in the air either. No. When he's up against defensively strong players like Hummels and then Deco, who I think is an exceptional defender. These kind of players, they win everything in the air from him as well. So he's just not good enough. But let's move on to Roma. From a Roma's perspective, their winning run comes to an end, Nima. It was 7 wins in a row, but they still keep that unbeaten 2025 intact. They haven't lost in 2025 in Serie A. They lost in the Coppa Italia, and they lost against Athletic Bilbao in Europe. But Roma show just how hard they are to beat. The spirit the team have. Ranieri again. I mean, his substitution, the way he reads games, the substitution at half time to go from one up front, being a bit too cautious, a bit too outnumbered, and not enough men getting forward. He put 2 up front, went to more of a 4-4-2, and Shomurdov is becoming like something of a super sub now. The guy seems to score every single time he comes on. I mean, that's all on Ranieri, who really wanted to keep him. They were going to sell him in January, and Ranieri said, "No, there's no way I'm allowing you to sell this guy in January." And people would have looked at that and thought, "That's a bit strange." I mean, it's Shomurdov. He's a bit of a banter player, isn't he? But he's become really important this second half of the season.
The way that Ranieri has Roma structured and set up is truly, truly impressive. That's what I take the most from it. It's not just a character; it's the fact that he's built a system for Roma that gets the most out of every player. And if some players don't work in this particular game, he knows how to tweak that and bring the right player on, put him in the right position to get a reaction from the team. He's really doing a fantastic job, and I understand that he's old and he wants to retire, but I mean, look, you can't argue with these results. They're unbeaten in 2025. They got 7 wins in a row. They would have been in the top 4 for sure had he, with this form, had he coached them.
They'd probably be top of the table if this was their record all season long. They'd be top of the table now.
Yeah, probably. They've been in Scudetto race.
This is Scudetto form they've been in 2025.
Yeah,
no
really
doubt about it.
I don't think they would have had that kind of form, but I think they would have definitely been higher up. They could have possibly even have been third, very much in the top 4 race. But the fact that they are in the top 4 race is all down to him. It's the structure he's put in place. He's very methodically and structurally built this Roma side in virtually no time to be very, very difficult to beat. They have lots of character. They're structurally sound in both phases, attacking and defensive. And his read of games and knowing when to put who on in what situation, it always pays off. It's so impressive and so interesting to see.
And when Nima, when to push, when to drop, and be humble enough to read the situation of the game and know what to do. 2 examples of that in this game. First of all, reading that first half, and I thought Roma were too cautious and they couldn't get enough men forward, and it was also allowing Juventus's centre backs to push forward a lot. I mean, we saw Kelly and Kalulu. I mean, Kalulu got the assist or sort of the cross that led to the Locatelli goal, but they were pushing forward a lot. So he knew that was a problem. He read the game. He brought on another forward that stopped those defenders from pushing forward much in the second half. And Roma started to cause trouble. Obviously, they scored, but also reading the game. He said this after the game, that he said sometimes in football you just have to accept that the other team are stronger, and you just have to say in those situations, okay, we're not going to go toe to toe with you. We're just going to try and hold out for the draw. And he said basically that's what Roma did in the last 20 minutes, which if you watch the game is basically what happened. Juventus were pushing and Roma really just were settling for the draw. And I think that's smart. He realised that Juventus looked stronger.
Mature. It's very mature. Yeah. Everything, he's basically come in there and calmed things down. And he is a very calm person. He's always been a very calm person and very level-headed person. And I think in an environment as heated, as Piazza as heated as Roma, I think that, and especially with everything that's been going on, I think that in and of itself is a good thing. You know,
can you get top 4? Can Roma get top 4? What do you think?
I think it's going to be very difficult. I mean, they have Lazio, Inter, Fiorentina, Atalanta, Milan, and then Verona and Torino. Verona's the only game they that's easy, that they probably should win. Torino on the final match day, I think by then everything will be decided. But other than that, Lazio, Inter, Fiorentina, Atalanta, Milan, those are all must-win games. I just don't see how Roma go clean sweep and win 21 points. Yes, if they win all those 7 games, then yeah, they'll finish in the top 4. But I just don't see them doing that. But it's been a remarkable turnaround. I think at this point, like I said last week, I think Juventus are finishing 3rd, and I have Lazio or Bologna 4th, with a slight advantage for Lazio because I'm so impressed by how they handle games, and also given the fixture list that's left. And Bologna 5th, Atalanta, Roma 6th, 7th. I have Fiorentina 8th.
Well, we come up to Atalanta. I want to talk about them in a minute. But I just want to give positives, individuals. There's 2 players I want to single out. First of all, Manu Kone, I think he's a fantastic player. Yeah, I really do. I mean, the guy never stops running. I know he's been compared to Kante for the way that the guy just runs.
But he was absolutely
outside. Yeah.
But that's the thing, that he doesn't just run for the sake of running. He's
good on the ball as well.
No. I mean, it's intelligent runs. It's well-timed runs. He knows when to run and not to run. He reads the game really well. Ranieri's put this. I mean, he's a young guy. You know, they put him. He's got him in a place where he can express his strengths in the best way possible. It's really impressive that, we talk about breakout players of the season. He's definitely up there for me. He's been so consistently so good. Yes, he's a workhorse, yes, but he's also an intelligent footballer. He's good with the ball, and he helps bring balance to Roma, which is what they need.
Yeah, I thought he was exceptional. He did the job for 2 players yesterday, especially playing with Cristante, who wasn't exactly on the best of form, but. So I want to shout out to him. I think he's an outstanding player, and also Svila. We've had a bit of criticism from some of our patrons, from some of our listeners, saying
Roma fans,
guys, Roma fans, saying you never give Milo Svila any credit. And we had a question on that on our Q&A show a few weeks ago. And I have to say, I put my hands up and say I think they're absolutely right. We haven't given him enough credit this season. If you try and think of like mistakes made by goalkeepers,
not many, has he?
Like even Milinkovic-Savic, who we praise a
Oh
lot.
my
So
God.
he made a real howler on Sunday. You know, but I'm trying to think of Svilar. How many mistakes has he made this season? I can't, off my top of my head, I can barely think of any. Even when Roma were in crisis at the start of the season.
Same.
No,
he's been
also
quite the goalkeeper. I agree
but the
with that. I
save
think
that he made from Nico Gonzalez's header, that is a world-class save. That's one of the saves of the season because he's got his body weight is going one way, and it's a brilliant header from Nico Gonzalez. Nico Gonzalez is very good in the air, and Juventus should be utilising that more as well. By the way,
especially as a wing back, when he makes that run as the fifth man into the box, that's already very difficult to defend against. But if you also have someone who's really actually good in the air, that could be a really attacking threat.
He's outstanding in the air, but that save was fingertips onto the bar. I mean, absolutely brilliant. I think they're right, Roma fans. I think there is the question to be made: is he the best goalkeeper in Serie A? Or has he been the best goalkeeper in Serie A this season? Maybe. I think we probably did underrate him. I think there is an argument. I'm not saying he is or was, because I think Milinkovic-Savic has been unreal and some of the saves he's made, and the penalty saves he's made. But I mean, I think Svilar is definitely, he's in the conversation for best goalkeeper in Serie A consistency.
He is, and he's been very important for Roma as well. Even when things were really difficult, he's made some really important saves, and he's made some really match-winning saves and point-winning saves, draw-winning saves, whatever you want to call it. And I think, I do think he's been incredibly important.
Yeah.
But I can't get over the fact that Paulo Dybala not being there, I think is that harms any team. And I think it harms Roma particularly a lot because of the fact that he is the moments of magic and genius that he can provide, the individual brilliance, the individual quality to win games and create something out of absolutely nothing. There's not very many of them going about.
Yeah, Sule was the big negative, I think, in this game. He didn't do enough for me. He wasn't bad, but he didn't do what Roma needed really to win this game. And that's why I think, a draw was a fair result. We'll come on to Hummels after announcing his retirement when we talk about Baggio of the week. But let's move on to Atalanta Lazio, because I mean, you just said there a minute ago that you saw Atalanta as finishing, was it 6th or 7th now?
I have them finishing outside of the top 4.
Okay, well, outside of the top 4, I mean, that's the big question now. Are Atalanta going to throw away the top 4? Because their position in the table is now precarious. They've lost 3 games in a row. As I've said, repeat myself every week, their form in 2025 is dreadful. 1-5, drawn 6, lost 9 now in all competition. That says everything. And their next 2 games are Bologna at home and Milan away. So they're now, recording this before the Monday game between Bologna and Napoli. They're still in 3rd, but they're only 2 points above Bologna and Juventus, who are in joint 4th ahead of that game. And there's obviously the likes of Roma are 3 points further back, and even Fiorentina. I mean, they're collapsing, right?
Well, it is a free fall. I mean, I did say before they started this run that they have a horrible run coming up. And that's why when people were saying, can they win the Scudetto? I said, I doubt that seriously. I don't think they will, because Juve, Inter, Fiorentina, Lazio, Bologna, Milan, all in one after another. After they destroyed and dismantled Juve, it's been 3 losses, and they haven't even scored a goal in any of those 3 games.
They've created a chance.
They've really created a chance. And I think, Gasperini said yesterday that, it's nonsense. It's un stupidata that, just because I announced that I'm leaving, that this has disrupted the team. But I think it's kind of become, I think that's kind of not the sole reason, of course, but I do think that has had an impact on them completely, coming off, the wheels coming off a little bit. And also, I mean, look, we've praised Atalanta, quite rightly so, these last couple of seasons, for punching above their weight. The budget of a championship team, winning European trophies, going to quarterfinals of the Champions League, beating the best teams in Europe and in the Serie A. But this season, Gasperini, the results, I'm sorry, but losing to Club Brugge in the Champions League, the Coppa Italia debacle against Empoli, and now risking top 4. This is a huge underachievement. We have to be honest. Gasperini's failing. This is if they finish out of the top 4, this will have been a complete flop of a season. Gasperini's last season at Atalanta will have been a flop, and they wouldn't have hit a single target. And that's the definition of a flop. And I think we should acknowledge that. And I think maybe that is also kind of why him leaving is not such a bad thing, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. If you take away that that great winning run that they went on, their season's been mid-table, even lower half of the table form for most of this season. If you take away that long winning run that they went on, and this has been in a season where we've said ourselves, we've been honest, this has been not been a very high quality season for Serie A in terms of the top of the table. I mean, Inter drew again, and they're 4 points clear while we're recording this, and they've drawn again. It's going to be one of the lowest points tallies winning the Scudetto. It's going to be one of the lowest points tallies to get probably 4th place this season that we've had in years. So is that kind of says it all. And Atalanta really are kind of a little bit fortunate in that sense that they're still 3rd, and they've still got a little, they've still got a bit of a cushion there. Not much now. But I mean, yeah, again, it's not working. On the pitch, another defensive shambles for the goal. They conceded, like the one they conceded against Fiorentina. Like Hien just left all on his own again. He just gets deserted out in the desert, in the like Moses in the desert. He is at the back sometimes. They just all abandon him. Again, I mean, I know they was calls for a foul there against Kolasinac, but I mean, it was chaotic defending. But I think more so than the defending, it's the attack that has really fallen apart for Atalanta in 2025. And I went away and I had a little look at the stats, because I mean, I've spoken a little bit about Retegui in recent, how bad his form has been. And in the last 12 games for Retegui, he's only scored in 3 of those matches, and he was disappointing again. He was taken off in this game, and we were saying in the first half of the season how he developed his game so much, and he was good outside the area. I mean, I think the second half of the season he's returned to the Genoa Retegui in terms of like not really contributing anything outside of the box. I mean, people will say, look, he's a capocannoniere, he's probably going to be top scorer in Serie A. We're being overly critical here, but let's break it. Let's split it up between his performances in the first half of the season, his performances in the second half of the season. The numbers tell the story. The performances tell the story. This isn't the same Retegui in the second half of the season. I just hope it's not. That he went on a hot streak at the beginning, and that now he's returning to his real level. I'm hoping it's just the other way around.
Look, when it comes to Retegui, I think we have to look at this a little bit like, well, overall, it's been a step forward for him in the season. And if you look at in the Champions League, when he was on that so-called hot streak, there was still something missing. He's been largely disappointing, even when in form in the Champions League, missing penalties. He's not been as prolific and efficient in the Champions League as he's been in the Serie A, even when he was in form. I think he's taken that step up, yes. But I still think there's margin for improvement left, and I think that's a good thing. I like when players take things forward step by step. He's going to be the capocannoniere. That's a great achievement. It's the first time an Atalanta player, it's the second time in Atalanta's history that a player becomes the capocannoniere. The first one was Filippo Inzaghi, his sole season in the 90s with Atalanta before he went to Juve. That's a great achievement for Atalanta. That's a great achievement for him. Then, yes, there's been dips this season, and that's something he has to work on. He has to improve his overall game in Europe and at the highest level. And that's good for Italy, and that's good for him. That means that going into next season, he will have a baseline that is higher than when going into this season, and he will have clear areas where he needs to improve. I think that's good, rather than once a player having a magical season and then falling off, having a big money move and then falling off, and then
I agree with you.
We can call that the Vlahovic problem. The Vlahovic case, where he had a fantastic calendar year, went to Juve, has looked like a meme pretty much since then.
Yeah. Well, it's not just Retegui, though, that deserves criticism. I think we have to send it towards Ademola Lookman as well.
Yeah.
Because in 2025, his form has also, I have to say, plummeted. I couldn't believe this was true. I had to double check this. Ademola Lookman in 2025 does not have a single assist in all competitions, which is absolutely insane when you think that this is a player who was one of the best players in the world, in my opinion, in 2024, who became African Player of the Year. I was even saying before Christmas that maybe he's the best player in Serie A right now. I remember saying that on this show. Yeah. And in 2025, his form has really, really dropped off. I don't know whether the fact that he's going to definitely leave at the end of the season, whether the Gasperini bust up that he had, whether that's played a little bit of a part, or whether it's just, Atalanta's attack falling off a cliff, full stop. It's probably a bit of everything, but not a single assist in 2025 and 20 games in 2025. 15 of those 20 games, Lookman hasn't had a goal contribution, neither a goal scored or, of course, a goal assisted. So that says it all. I mean, we're talking about this. We're talking about a player that Atalanta are looking to get 70 million or however much that they want to get for him. He hasn't been showing that. So Lookman has been a big disappointment. And then I had a look at Charles de Ketelaere as well, another guy that we like to praise a lot for how well he's played under Gasperini. He's gone 16 games without a goal or assist. 16. 21 games in 2025, de Ketelaere. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist. They both came in the same game against Sturm Graz. So all of them, Retegui, Lookman, de Ketelaere, they've all not been good enough in 2025. Atalanta's attack's not been good enough. Atalanta not been good enough. And that's why we're here. And that's why, like we said, they could collapse.
No, they can, and it's concerning because they still got a couple of important games coming up. I mean, out of the 7 they've got Milan, Bologna, and Roma left. Then, of course, they got Genoa in no man's land, Lecce and Parma fighting to avoid relegation, which will be difficult, and then Monza, who are hopelessly at the bottom of the table and will finish there. So it's going to be a tough run-in for them. As we've seen, when you reach this stage of the season, the relegation teams are fighting literally for their lives. So they're not easy teams to deal with.
They're harder than the mid-table teams.
Yeah, they are. The mid-table ones, I mean, the Serie A classically, the biscotto discussion, the mid-table teams, I mean, in Italy, it's traditionally been considered rude by the mid-table teams to fight for the games when they've got nothing to play for.
Disrespectful, yeah.
It's disrespectful. You just let everyone, you got nothing to play for. We were fighting for our life. Why don't you just let us win? That's been the attitude pretty much. So
I love it.
It's brilliant. It's rude. It's considered rude. So the mid-table teams, I'm not really bothered by, but the relegation teams are fighting for their lives, and that's not going to be easy for Atalanta.
No.
But so
it's harder to play. The teams you want to play at this time of the season are the mid-table teams.
Yeah, that's who you want to have.
You want to play.
Yeah, they are the teams you want to play.
Or Monza. I mean, Monza, that's fine.
Yeah, Monza teams. Yeah, exactly. Teams that are like dead last and have zero hope. You want to play teams that have nothing to play for at this part of the season, and Atalanta don't do that. They play, aside from Torino and Monza and Genoa and Monza. They're playing teams that have everything to play for. Maybe not Milan as much.
A team that does have a lot to play for in Serie A and in Europe is Lazio. This was a massive win for Lazio to turn around their form, Nima, because they've been in bad form recently, and they really have started to fall away. It was 4 without a win before this game, including that, of course, that 5-0 thumping by Bologna. They didn't play particularly well offensively in this game. They didn't really create much. In all honesty, this was probably a 0-0 game, but they were solid. They didn't concede anything. And I think it's a really good result when you consider the number of injuries that they've got. And that's kind of like, there's good and bad from this game, in the sense that, yes, it's a crucial win. They're back to a point behind Juventus. They're right in the top 4 race. They've got the derby. It was really important to win before the derby and before, obviously, their game in Europe. Isaacson with another big goal. He scored a number of big goals this season. Napoli, he scored against that goal that he scored against Victoria Peltsen as well. But I can't help but feeling with Lazio, especially as they've got quite a tough run in as well, that these injuries are really starting to take their toll. And they lost Nuno Tavares in this game as well. I don't know how serious it is, but that's a disaster to lose him, because he adds such a new dimension, another dimension to their play. And they've got quite a few injuries. And I just feel like, we praised them all season for physically being able to cope with all these different competitions and maintain their level. I do feel that we're starting to see a Lazio team that's tiring a bit, and a team that's getting stretched, and a team that's losing a few too many players for me. And that's my concern for them going forward, despite this being a massive win.
I agree. I think that is what has most people kind of cautious about Lazio. Can they make the top 4 or not? And of course, the Bodö Glimt in the Europa League quarterfinal clash, which we're going to get to in a minute. But look, the derby is the key. I think the boost that will give Lazio, this next week with the Europa League quarterfinal and the derby, if they can go through to the semis and get a result against Roma, that will boost them, because afterwards they've got Genoa away, Parma at home, Empoli away, before they play Juve and obviously a potential semi-final in the Europa League. I think that this next week is going to be key for them. I just don't feel comfortable discounting Lazio at this point, because I feel with under Baroni, they have little dips, but they always bounce back, and they bounce back, and they bounce back, and they get those results, gritty results. And it feels like the Lazio setup and the structure there, the players trust it, and they believe in themselves under Baroni, and they feel comfortable in what they're doing, that even after that hammering and drubbing against Bologna, which was ruthless, they were completely humiliated and asphalted even, but they bounced back, and they got 55 points. They're just 1 point behind Juve. They're there with Juve. They're neck and neck with Juve. And I think if going into that Juve game, if they're still thereabouts at home at the Olimpico, I wouldn't, I think they can get a result against Juve as well. I mean, I think Baroni has built something that this season they've shown that they don't die, and they always bounce back. And I feel that especially in the final third, the depth in attack, the substitutions he makes, I think has been so good this season. As you talk about Ranieri reading games, and he's been outstanding, but Baroni too, the timing of taking players on and off and reading the situation and changing games by substitutions, I think he's been one of the best in the Serie A this season, not just in Europe, not just in the Serie A, but also in Europe. So I don't want to I think yes, losing Nuno Tavares will be difficult for them, but then again, I feel like Tavares has been injured. I mean, he started off really, really well, but then he's been injured quite a bit.
He's
been
season. Stuck on 8 assists since I don't know when. It must be like October, because I remember him being the top assist man in all of Europe back in October. With 8 assists, and he's still on 8 assists now. So
he is, and that is like, that's what it feels like. That was a flash in the pan, but then since then he's been injured. He's been in and out of the team. Lazio still delivered results, so I don't think it will harm them as much as people think. I think this is more, his injury is kind of more, Groundhog Day, more of the same for him. After a fantastic start, but if you look at the game,
that's a good segue. Groundhog Day.
Before we get to that, because that is definitely it's FC Groundhog Day, that. But if you look at the remaining games, Roma, Genoa, Parma, Empoli, Juve, Inter, Lecce, and the Europa League, I do think that that Lazio have the depth to be able to compete on these two fronts. I think if they've been in the Coppa Italia, but in a little bit too much. But just between these couple of games, I think they're going to fight until the end. I think the key, as I said, Roma, the derby. That's going to be that's always a key in Rome, but especially
Yeah, I think they'll fight to the end, but I am worried about the injuries. I think that's the problem for them. But Groundhog Day, this is it's unbelievable. It's the same. It's the same story. I said this last week. Same story with Milan. If you want to know what's going to happen to Milan in their next game, if you want to put a bet on or everything, this is what I'm going to tell you now. What's going to happen in Milan's next game? They're going to fall behind early on, maybe even go 2-0 behind. Then it's going to be absolutely shambolic defending for at least one or two of those goals. Then what's going to happen after that is Sergio Conceição is going to basically throw the kitchen sink. He's going to throw all his forwards onto the pitch. Milan are going to make some crazy comeback. They're either going to draw the game, or maybe even win the game, or maybe just fall short. And that's the story. That's the story of the game. Basically, it's the same story for Milan every single time, and it was the same story. The only difference this time was Conceição didn't wait till half time or the second half to basically just throw a bunch of forwards on. He did it on 23 minutes. He took 2-0 down. He took off, was it Musa? He took off and he brought on Jovic after 23 minutes and went 2 up front after 23 minutes. I mean, Milan might as well just start the game with all their forwards on the pitch, because it's the only time they seem to play well is when they're the only players on the pitch are forwards.
Yeah, they do. It's crazy. It's like Milan fans only, or sorry, it's like the Milan team, this Milan squad only kicks into gear once they concede 2 goals. But you have to give it to them as well. The fact that they keep coming back from 2 goals down and win and draw time and time and time again is sign of mental strength and character. And that's something that has been very significative, very typical of the Conceição era. They really, they didn't have that as much under Fonseca, but under Conceição, he's really channeled that. I mean, they were 2-0 down against Inter, and they turned that game in the Supercoppa, and they turned that game on its head and won 3-2. So
they have the most points. They have more points than any other team in Serie A this season from losing positions.
Yeah, I mean that shows character. Despite all the problems they've got, it shows they have firepower, and it also shows character, which is important, because that means there's something to actually build from next season. There's something there that you can actually build from, regardless of who stays and who goes. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they have got so many, different goal scorers as well. I mean, I think Tammy Abraham, I know he's not had the best of time this season, but I actually think he's been very useful for Milan since coming. The way that he's used by Conceição, he's been very, very useful for them. His movements, his link-up play, the way that he interprets that striker position has been very useful for Milan.
He had a good week. He had a good week.
He had a very good week.
And then scoring in this as well.
No, I think he's been good for Milan. I have to say, I think he's been.
Well, I have to say, I mean, that brings us on to something I wanted to debate with you, and that is, I mean, Tammy Abraham he's overtaken Jimenez. In fact, I would even argue that Jovic, who's also been good in the last 2 Serie A games, he was actually good when he came on against Napoli and caused them a lot of problems, even though it was only a cameo at the end. And he was really good in this game, Jovic, when he came on. Jimenez is 3rd now in the pecking order for Milan. I know we discussed this last week about, is he going to be a flop for Milan? I mean, we've got to remember that Tammy Abraham won't stay next season, and Jovic won't be there next season either. So I guess this doesn't really count. But right now, Jimenez is third choice, and this game kind of summed up his Milan career so far, didn't it? He came on and he got injured and ended up going off after making pretty much no impact at all. Well,
that is a problem, though, isn't it? I mean, you have 2 strikers who are performing and who are actually functioning well, but because of the uncertainty of who's going to be the coach and who's going to be the sporting director and so on, the only player they actually own and have invested in is Santi Jimenez, who hasn't scored a goal or made an assist since joining Milan in January. So,
I'll correct you there. He has scored. He has scored.
Sorry,
but
yeah.
he has scored.
Serie A,
I think he's gone.
In the Serie A,
I think he has 1 in the Serie A, but he's gone 8. He's gone 8 games for Milan and 10 games for club and country without scoring. So, and he has 1 assist in that time. His last goal was almost 2 months ago. So is this just a difficult spell, or is this something that is a concern?
Yeah, you're right. He scored in the loss to Bologna in the Serie A.
He scored in the Coppa as well. I remember he scored a nice goal. on João Felix's debut. Remember him, João Felix? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's just
and he also scored against Verona. You're right.
The positives from this game for Milan highlight really the negatives going forward with Jimenez. I thought the other positive was Maignan made 2 monster saves, absolute monster saves in this game. The save from Beltram and the save from Kean, Moise Kean, when he was 1-on-1. I can't actually be that critical of Ken for that miss, other than he probably didn't connect with it cleaner enough. But the save was absolutely unbelievable. We had some incredible saves in Serie A this weekend. That's up there with Miles Filas was probably a bit better, but that was a brilliant save as well. So I have to say though, this was one of the games of the season. This was an unbelievable match. This game had everything. I mean, it had 4 goals. It had disallowed. I think Fiorentina had 2 brilliant disallowed goals, like wonder goals disallowed. There was controversy. There was chance after chance. There was brilliant saves. I really enjoyed watching this game. I thought it was a brilliant game to watch. But from Milan, again, it's not enough. They needed to win this game. Now I guess the question is, are they even going to get into Europe? Nima, forget the top 4. That's gone. Are they even going to get into Europe?
I don't think they will. Unless they win the Coppa Italia. I think that's the chance to win, to win something. To go to Europe is to win the Coppa Italia. I just don't see them. I don't think they want to be in the Conference League. I don't think they care enough. I think they see that as a distraction. I think the Europa League they can handle and deal with, but the Champions League is gone. I mean, let's be honest. It's finished. There's no chance they're going to finish in the top 4 or even top 5. But I think their only chance is to win the Coppa Italia. And yeah, it's it's not impossible for them to do that. I think they've shown that they are somewhat of a bogey team for Inter since this season.
I think you said in your post-match podcast last week, if Milan played against Inter every week, they'd probably win the Scudetto.
Yeah,
because I'm not just saying that just as in a kind of a jokey, playful way.
No, it's true. Look at the result.
If you watch Milan play against Inter, Inter are the only team that Milan play against where they look like a team. Like I've been saying it since day one, even under Fonseca. This Milan team is not a team. They're a bunch of individuals. There's no units. There's no departments. There's no structure. There's no cohesion. The defense is the biggest example of that. I mean, look at the defending for again, every game they let in the most ridiculous goals. I mean, the first goal, Thiago has a shocker in this game. I mean, he scores an own goal for the first. He plays everyone on side for the second. Tomori shocking again. Musa's defending for the first goal. But the defending full stop as a team the second goal. I mean, Bodö is unmarked at the far post. Theo Hernandez is nowhere. Then Tomori's daydreaming and Kean is just there to put the ball in. And the spaces, every game, the spaces that opposition have to play into against Milan. I mean, again, we're talking about other big chances. Beltran, 1-on-1. Moise Kean, 1-on-1. It doesnnt matter who plays at centre back or who plays in defence. It's the same problems. We were last week we were talking about Gabbia and Pavlovic, about how they're too slow to play together and they were a disaster together. This week it was Tomori and Thiago who were a disaster together. Kyle Walker's come in January, one of the best players, of the last 10 years in his position. Okay, he's a little bit older now. He hasn't helped the defence at all. Conceição is supposed to be one of the best defensive coaches in Europe. He hasn't helped either. So, I think it's a personnel thing as well. I think it's a character thing. I think it's just the defense is just a mess.
They don't. I mean, the defense is
it's a clown show.
Yeah, and it's something that the fact that they just have revolving doors and it's like it's musical chairs who plays and who works in one. They just there's no consistency and there's no structure. I think you're absolutely spot on about them not being a team in that sense. And it's not strange that they're not a team. They've had 3 coaches in less than a year, and 3 very different coaches with very different philosophies and styles and tactical disposition and how they want to play and defend and attack. So there is confusion there. And I think defensively that shows. But I do think that, like, what we've seen from them, the fact that they do keep coming back, the fact that they do keep scoring, the firepower and the character, that tells me that the team isn't entirely dead, but it's more a structural, a boardroom kind of problem more than just in the dressing room. Of course, they need a coherent project. They need a sporting director. The Paratici mess of the last week has been quite embarrassing.
Yeah, let's talk about that quickly. I mean, that's more chaos off the pitch. I mean, I found it insane. Because I remember we were discussing on the show about maybe Andrea Agnelli coming back to Juventus. And you were like, well, he's got this Prisma investigation going on. It wouldn't be wise to and I kind of agree with you, whatever the outcome of that case, you don't want that kind of,
you have a criminal prosecution.
You don't want that hanging over you as a club. I'm thinking as a club,
yeah.
You don't want that all hanging over you, because it just creates more distraction when you're already got an environment that's a bit of a chaos. And the same as with Milan. Milan Juventus is very similar in terms of the chaos in the management and how the criticisms of how the clubs are being badly run up above. The fact that they spent all this time negotiating with Paratici, when he's in basically the same situation as Agnelli, and that there's this Prisma investigation going, it's just another damning indictment of the club. I mean,
they shouldn't. I mean, for me, it's like when first of all, it depends on if you believe the reports or not. I mean, some people like Nicolo Schira, our friend, has said consistently, he's not the leading candidate because he doesn't convince everyone at Milan. And he said that throughout these past few weeks. He said, yes, there's been talks, there's been interest, but he's not the leading candidate because there are people at Milan who don't think this is going to work, with the Prisma investigation being one of the main reasons of that, the criminal investigation hanging over his head, and of course the ban and whatnot. But then but there has been something there. There has been talks. I don't understand that. I understand why you go after Paratici because of the fact that he's been at Juve, he has lots of contacts, he's been abroad in England. I get why they would want him, but the very idea that you go after someone when you must know that he has these legal issues, not just the conviction which has him banned from football, which he's appealed, or which is ongoing, and then you have the criminal investigation on the side of that, which no one knows the future of, or what's going to happen there. Why would you at this point even consider him? It just makes no sense, and it's just more bad press for Milan and more confusion and being unorganized.
Yeah,
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I just don't understand the logic behind it.
No, I agree with you. Okay, well, let's move through a little bit quickly now. So Fiorentina, from their point of view, I think they'll be kicking themselves a bit, being 2 goals ahead to throw away that 2-goal lead. If they had won, they would have been in a really, really great position. I mean, they would have been really right up there in the top 4 race. Also, because as we just said last week, they've actually got probably the best calendar actually out of all the teams in the top 4 race. They've got the best fixture list. So obviously they do have the games in Europe, which will take its toll. But yeah, I mean, I thought in this game that the way to sum up their game was offensively great, defensively as bad as Milan, to be honest with you. Shambolic defensively. The equaliser that they just sums that up, the defender. And then I think De Gea, like Magnon, saved them. De Gea was outstanding in this game as well, made some fantastic saves.
Well, he's been outstanding since joining Fiorentina, if we're perfectly honest. Since he's played, I think he's been very, very good. One thing that I'm really impressed with Fiorentina is they've had this difficult run. Juve, Atalanta, and Milan, and they've got 7 out of 9 points. They could have had 9. Now they've got Parma, Cagliari, Empoli, Roma, Venezia, Udinese, and Bologna. That's not a run-in that scares you. And if you're playing against Roma and Bologna, who are direct rivals for top 4, you fancy your chances. I think Venezia is
the problem is they've got points to make up. They've got, they're a little bit behind. That's the problem. That's why I think if they'd have won this game, then yes, I think they're in with a real big chance because of they've still got, I think it's 4 points from Juve, and
4 points from Juve.
It's when there's only 7 games. When there's only 7 games left, you're looking at needing perfection, and that's one. But one player that is getting, he's on the road to perfection. Let's say Moise Kean again. I mean, what can we say about this guy? He scores again in this game. He probably should have had a hat trick. I mean, he missed a couple of big chances, but also Magnon made a magnificent save for at least one of them. 22 goals this season. He scored 22 goals in 36 games, and this stat has gone around that's viral, that he has the same number of goals and assists, both of them identical, this season for Fiorentina than in the entirety of his 2 spells at Juventus, his Juventus career, which was 123 games. He already has the same number of goals. I mean, that shows you just how much he has exploded this season. And of course, he's on an incredible form. 4 goals in 3. Those 2 goals against Germany, the goal against Atalanta, and then he scores here against Milan. I mean, this guy, how good can he become, Nima, do you think? What is his ceiling, do you think?
Well, look, we're talking about a player who this season for club and country across all competitions has 25 goals. I think he's going to reach 30. When you become a 30 goal a season player, that makes you a top striker. That makes you an elite striker. The thing that's so impressive about him is that he's not the kind of classic striker in the sense that he's not this kind of fox in the box. He's very, very dynamic. His movement, he makes others, because of his runs and the way that he links up, he's actually very useful in creating space for others. But his finishing this season has been really, really, really good. He's improved loads, even though I know that he still misses quite a few. But again, I think the same discussion with Retegui in this aspect applies here, in the sense that this has been a relaunch season, a real launch season for him to build upon. Again, 30 goals. I mean, he's on 25 now. I think he's definitely going to reach 30 across all comps for club and country. And when you are that kind of a striker, that's a top level career. Can he maintain it?
Well, of course, as well. Yeah, for a team like Fiorentina, you're not talking about an Inter or Juventus.
He's got 22 goals in all comps for Fiorentina, 3 for the Italy national team this season. And if
I look at his game, Nima, and I look at his strengths, I mean, strength is number one. The guy, I mean, there was a point when he was down on the field and he was holding, like someone was giving him attention, he had cramp. And have you seen the size of this guy's muscles?
Massive.
They are absolutely huge. I mean, pure muscle. This guy is so strong, and he's only 25. He'll get stronger. Imagine him when he's about 27, 28, when he's a full man. This guy, some of the players that I've seen him go toe-to-toe with and even get the better of physically. Jonathan Tah is one person that comes to mind. I mean, that guy's a monster. Isaac Hien last week. And again, in this game, Malik Thiaw is a big guy. Strong guy. They couldn't get the better of him. I think physically, he's the match of pretty much anyone. He's so strong. He's very good at holding up the ball. He's very good at winning free kicks if he can't do anything, if he's isolated. Really, like, Juventus made a big mistake getting rid of him. I said that at the time. I thought it was a mistake getting rid of him. But he's bringing this goal scorer into his game. Now, shoot me down now. And I'm not saying he's as good or he will ever be as good. But does he have the potential to be some kind of Italian Osimhen?
Well, I think Italian Osimhen in that sense, because, yes, I think Victor Osimhen.
He's not as good in the air. He's not as good in the air.
I don't think anyone in the world is as good in the air as Victor Osimhen. When he's in form, he's the best header of the ball. I think attacking wise, I think he's just unstoppable, Osimhen. But Moise Kean, look, the thing that I find so impressive is, aside from the sheer raw strength and power, he's so damn dynamic and quick and so easy and light on his foot and can easily shift weight, and so difficult to mark because of that. He shifts weight really easily. He's technically sound. Good shot on him. No, he's really had this,
and he's, as you say, a pain in the butt, like Osimhen, in terms of how he hassles and harries, and he can press, and he wins the ball off defenders, and he's in the duels. He wins the duels because he
wins
strong.
the duels. Yeah,
you know,
no, exactly. He's a pain in the butt to play against. You know that when you play him, he's going to be on you for 90 minutes. You're going to have to be switched on for 90 minutes, or he's going to score because he never stops. Now, this has been, like I said a couple of weeks ago, I think this has been this season in the Serie A. If there's a main takeaway to take away, it is the redemption of the Italian striker, Moise Kean, Retegui, to a lesser extent, it's the Esposito brothers. Even Pinamonti. This has been a season where the Italian striker has kind of relaunched itself, and I think no one embodies that better than probably Moise Kean in terms of consistency. But when it comes to like the highest level for the highest peaks, I still think Retegui has been much more sharper in the box.
I mean, Retegui is one of the best. I think he's one of the best finishers. In football, full stop. Like he gets a chance, he's a killer. Kean can still improve that, but Kean, what I like about him is he's obviously playing with lots of confidence. Like he fancies himself against anyone now, which is great. He never had that confidence at Juventus. He was very, like, at times very low, head down. I mean, he went this whole season at Juventus where he was scoring, which was mad. But like he shoots on sight. Like he's taken more shots actually this season than any other player in Serie A on target. Had more shots on target than any other player, which again shows how his improvement of his finishing. The fact that he's hitting the target. A bit like Cristiano Ronaldo. People used to criticize Ronaldo and say, "Oh, look how many shots he used to have and how many chances he used to miss." But that's because the guy was always shooting. He was always getting his shots on target. And eventually, it's a numbers game. You have X number of shots on target. You're going to score eventually. So that is a real positive. So yeah, fantastic for Kean.
I just got to say, like, you look at that Conference League, they got Celje. They should probably beat that, and then perhaps in the semi-finals, Real Betis.
They'll play Betis in the semis, which is tough.
Which is tough, but you do fancy that when teams that win trophies and cups and leagues, they do have a main goal scorer, and in Fiorentina, in Moise Kean, Fiorentina do have someone who will always be there. If he doesn't score himself, he'll put others into position. I mean, look, someone like Albert Gudmundsson, that first goal, I know people say it's an own goal by Chow. I think that's a little bit unfair. I think that's all on Gudmundsson. The run, the dribble, the drop of the shoulder, the going past.
Yeah.
Fiorentina have match winners, and that counts for a lot when you're going for trophies, regardless if it's a cup or a league. And I think Moise Kean's decisiveness in important games as well, that's a key aspect which he has brought into his game on top of the 22 goals he scored for Fiorentina across all comps. And I'm really hoping that he can end this season and Fiorentina with a trophy in the Europa League, which would end their trophy drought, and it would he would be the man, the symbol of that.
Poster boy, yeah, for sure. Before we talk about Inter, just quickly, the rest of the weekend fixtures: Genoa 1, Udinese 0, Monza 1, Como 3. So Monza are definitely going down. Como, we can say, definitely now safe. What I loved about this game is Adriano Galliani left the stadium at half time. He was so disgusted. He just left the stadium, went back to his Adams family mansion.
Well, I mean, he's the one who appointed Alessandro Nesta, so to begin with, which is why they're in this position.
Twice,
to be, twice. Yeah. So I mean,
Pochetti was the weird one, but
but he should never have appointed Alessandro Nesta as the coach, and they should definitely not have had Pochetti as the coach to come in instead of that. She has no one to blame but himself. He's made really bad decisions. I look at that Monza squad. I don't think they're that bad. I don't think they should be bottom of the Serie A. if we put it like that. I think there are teams that are worse than them on paper. They have grossly underperformed.
Yeah, maybe. I do think their defence is a joke, though, on paper and on the pitch. Lecce won, Venezia won. Not the best result for either team, really.
No.
Certainly Venezia. Venezia need to get wins, and they just draw all the time. Empoli nil, Cagliari nil in one of the worst games in history, which means Nima probably loved it. Combined XG of 0.33. Shocking.
I have to say, though, for
You
Empoli,
enjoyed it,
yeah, I did. No, but for Empoli's sake, I mean, if you take away, they got, they're out of the Coppa Italia, that they would, the 3-0 down. They're not going to, unless they pull off one of the greatest miracles of all time. But they got Napoli, and then they got Fiorentina. But then after that, they got Venezia at home, Lazio at home, Parma at home, Monza away, Verona at home. Verona will probably be. They'll probably be done by then, so they're probably going to secure. So they've got nothing to play for on the last match.
They won't be rude, yeah.
No, they won't be rude. Exactly. They'll bake a beautiful Venetian biscotto for the Tuscans. And then you've got Monza, who'll probably be relegated by the time matchday 37 comes along. You look at the Parma game and the Venezia game, I actually fancy that. I think Empoli are going to stay up. I think they, given that they've got it all, they're the masters of their own destiny, to borrow an Italian, to translate an Italian football expression. They're the masters of their own destiny, and that's important at this stage. It gives you more calm.
Yeah.
So I think Empoli could do something.
Okay, big call. And the other game was Torino 1, Verona 1. Quite an eventful game, actually. Elmas scored a great goal. He's been fantastic since joining in January. Shea Adams missed a penalty, and there was that big blunder from Milinkovic-Savic.
That's one of the worst blunders of the season. We have to be honest about that. That is genuinely one of the most horrific goalkeeping mistakes I've seen all season, in all leagues, in any league. It was genuinely dreadful.
Yeah, and Richie got sent off as well at the end. Big game, of course, Bologna versus Napoli on Monday evening, because we're recording this before that game. And that will be big, because Napoli will have the chance, if they win, to go 1 point behind Inter, because Nima, Inter throw away a 2-goal lead at Parma. It's another game of two halves for Inter, which is becoming a little bit of a theme, and that's always been my biggest concern with Inter, has been physically whether they can maintain their level for 90 minutes, which I don't think they can anymore. They have to be smart how they play it. And in this game, Inzaghi tried to do that, but who do you blame for throwing away this 2-goal lead? Do you blame Inzaghi for his subs, for taking it for granted, for thinking we're 2-0 up at half time, we've got this game won, and he made, because I look at some of the subs he made, especially at 2-1, when Parma are on the high and they're coming for that second goal, and he takes off Çalhanoğlu and Lautaro in between the first and second goal. I'm very critical of that. Do you think, I know he wasn't on the bench, but obviously he's the one making the calls. Is this on Inzaghi? Is this Inzaghi's fault, do you think?
I think it's a combination. I think his in-game management in this game and in the Udinese game was atrocious. I think it's 2 games in a row that his in-game management has been bad. But if you're taking everything into account, I can't really blame him too much either, because he had Milan and he has got Bayern Munich coming up in between. So he has to manage their minutes. These players are tired, and Lautaro's semi-injured. The issue is, again, as it's kind of been all season to a certain extent, is that Inter can't string 2 good halves together. And they just haven't been able to do that all season. And when they play well, they don't kill off games. Lautaro and Thuram missed 2 sitters. They should have scored those. That's 4-0, game over. Same thing against Udinese. This was literally the repeat of the Udinese game, only away to Parma, with the difference, of course, that Parma made Inter pay, and Udinese weren't able to. But it was otherwise the same thing. Cruise control, 2-0 up. You should just kill off the game. You can't kill off the game. You miss sitters. And then wonder goal by Bernabé. And then, the insecurity sets in. Inter aren't able to they're scrambling, trying to maintain their lead. They barely created anything in the second half. They look scared. And then Parma equalized and could have won. And this was just, this was arrogant. This was arrogance on Inter's part. I think they managed the game badly, but it's also goes to show that this is why I've said that all season. This Inter just doesn't seem to have that killer instinct about it that they did last season. Whether that is because of the mental fatigue or physical fatigue, or we're talking about injuries. Inter are completely depleted. He had, as Zaghi said after the Milan game, he had 14 outfield players.
I think that's fair. I just think that what I've said is I feel like I've seen this too many times this season, that when Inter go full throttle in the first half of a game, and I'm thinking of the Juventus game where they absolutely battered Juventus in that first half in Turin, didn't get the goal. But then the second half, they were spent. They had nothing, and Juventus ended up winning the game. I feel like I've seen, not to that extent, but I feel like I've seen that scenario too many times. Or it's the other way around. It's Inter start slowly to try and pace themselves, and maybe that's the way they go. They've got to go. They've got to try and pace themselves a little bit better. And
they have to manage the game.
If that means not scoring the goals to go ahead until the second half, then so be it. But because if they go all out in the first half, I mean, in this game they scored the 2 goals, but if they weren't to score, and then they're going to be in trouble in the second half. And I'm thinking more in Europe. I think they've got to be. I think they will be. They won't make that mistake in Europe. They'll manage the game much better in Europe. We'll come to Bayern in a second, but I do feel like that is the physical decline that we're seeing. And I think also, as we've said all season, that Inter don't have that strength in depth. Where they've maybe been overrated a little bit with the strength and depth, and we've seen that again. They make subs, especially when Bastoni comes off. I've noticed that a lot this season. When Bastoni comes off, the team seems to not be the same defensively.
Well, Bastoni was semi-injured, so that's another injury again. I mean, this is they got it wrong in pre-season. They had never prepared for a 11-month long season, so they were kind of working in the dark. They didn't get the preparation right. And since then, they've been chasing fitness all season. And now you have injury after injury. Dumfries is gone. Lautaro Thuram's semi-injured. Taremi's out. Zelinski's out. Bastoni's semi-injured. Di Marco's just come back. Çalhanoğlu's just come back. I mean, it's.
They're not in ideal shape. The players that are playing are not ideal shape.
No, they're not. And it's the decisive point of the season. It's not a disaster. They can still, they're still masters of their own destiny, but they need that cushion. Going into these games against Lazio, Roma, Bologna, they're going to need a 4-5 point cushion. And I'm not sure they're going to have that because, I mean, if Bologna...
We'll have to see what happens with Napoli-Bologna.
Yeah, if they draw tonight. But I mean, then again, Bologna are in excellent form, and you don't know. I really don't know how that game is going to go. It feels like an impossible game to predict.
Yeah,
but if Napoli win that game, and they're only 1 point behind, and they've got this easy run in, and Inter have got that difficult. As I said, I fancy Napoli to win this.
Yeah, game. I think if Napoli can get that down to 1 point, then I think they'll be in a very good position. Let me put it that way. The one positive for Inter, I think, was Sommer. I thought he was brilliant against Udinese to save you the 3 points, and he made 2 monster saves in this game. The one from Boni was unbelievable. And then he made another, I think it was Dennis Mann, the one where he went to his left, low to his left, was a really good save. So I guess the kind of talk of his demise, what's the famous quote?
I've been greatly exaggerated.
Greatly exaggerated, yeah. Yeah, Mark Twain. So yeah, I mean, I think he was really good. For Parma, though, I do want to give a shout out to Bernabé. He was Bernabé and this guy that I honestly don't want to sound like a Premface, never heard of, this Pellegrino guy. He was a right handful, this Pellegrino, when he came on. He was really causing trouble, even to Acerbi. He was putting him like big monster in attack, like going direct to him. But Bernabé, what a class player. What a class player.
He is. And the you can tell
he's been linked to Inter as well, actually.
Yeah, yes. But look, Kivu has done a really good job. The players spoken about it as well, that since Kivu came in, the players feel more relaxed, they believe in what they're doing, and the fact that they reacted the way they did, 2-0 down against the reigning champions Inter, and you just go in there and you change the game completely. Your individual, your key individuals in the team, they start winning their individual battles, they start delivering, and they just turn the game on its head. And that's a wonderful goal by Bernabé. And I think, Boni is, he's been outstanding. I mean, people talk about him as some sort of a poor man's Thuram, and if Thuram is sold, Inter should probably look at him and so on and so forth. I wouldn't quite.
I like it. For his age, I think he's going to be a very good player.
I mean, I still want to wait. I think he has interesting characteristics. I wouldn't go so far as to start calling him the new Thuram and so on. I want to wait a little bit more. I want to see more. But I do think that, like you said, given his age, given what he's shown this season, it's a very interesting.
Parma have got a lot of. We said this all season. Parma have got a lot of players that are going to join bigger clubs. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
It's just their defence has let them down this season. They've been a shambles.
With Fabio Pecchia, who doesn't believe in defending, I mean, that's what he didn't do for most of the
right. Let's close off this show then. Quickly previewing the European midweek games. So Champions League quarter-final Tuesday, Bayern Munich versus Inter, the first leg there. Then on Thursday we have the Europa League quarter-final first leg, Bodö Glimt against Lazio in Norway, and then in the Conference League we have, let's get this pronunciation correct, Celje,
I think it is.
I think
it's Celje. Yeah.
Celje versus Fiorentina, and that's also on Thursday as well. So yeah, I mean the chances of getting that extra coefficient place are quite low, but we'd have to win these 3 games to start with. Bayern versus Inter. So yeah, first leg in the Allianz Arena in Munich. Now this is a very, very interesting game. Now Bayern are still favourites for this tie. They went into it as reasonably strong favourites, which I disagreed with from the start. I thought from the start I thought it was a 50-50 tie. But Bayern come into this with a huge injury crisis. They're completely decimated. They've lost Musiala with a hamstring injury. He'll be out of both legs against Augsburg at the weekend. Alphonso Davies, ACL, season over. Upamecano, cartilage injury. He'll be out of both legs. Ito, metatarsal injury, season over. Buchanan, not an important player. He's out of both legs. Pavlovic, Epstein-Barr virus, out of both legs. Then Manuel Neuer, I think, will definitely miss this first leg. He might be back for the second leg, though. And I think Coman's going to miss the game as well. He's got a knee injury. But added to that, they've also, a bit like Inter, they've got some players that are playing with injuries. Kim Min-jae is playing with painkillers. He had an Achilles strain and he can't even train properly. He's training one day, then not training the next day. So that's their injury situation. Obviously, Inter do have some injuries, but they're going to miss one first-team player, Dumfries, who's out. But
Zelinski's out. Dumfries
Zelinski and Taremi are out.
But, yeah, exactly.
Bastoni will play. I think the issue with Nima, the issue with Inter is, like you said, that a lot of their players that will play are not in peak condition. That's the issue with Inter than
Bayern have Goretzka and Harry Kane, who are semi-injured as well, and they're going to play, but they're kind of semi-injured. Look, I think the broader discussion here is not
survival of the fittest, this game, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think the broader discussion before we get into that is when you look at the sheer number of injuries that both of these, this is the quarterfinal of the Champions League, and you look at the names missing from this game with serious injuries or, muscle injuries, football is killing itself. The sheer number of games, football is eating itself, literally eating itself. When you have not just ACL, but this number of injuries this late in the season, it's literally, for me, it's a no-brainer now that football is killing itself. You could have a Champions League final with all the best players missing soon. I wouldn't rule that out, with essentially just reserves playing. Yeah. And then what's the point?
And those that are playing are like the players that are going to play in this game. That they're completely
semi-injured.
They're semi-injured, or they're playing with painkillers, which is not really good either.
And what kind of quality are we seeing then?
No.
I mean, it's insane. But yeah, to focus more on the game itself.
No, I want to expand on that point, because I think that's an important point. You say football is killing itself. FIFA, UEFA, they're killing football. They're killing football because all they care about is money, and it's more. Extra games, bigger World Cups, bigger Champions Leagues. This ridiculous Club World Cup that they're now going to play in June and July, which means another summer without any rest. Now, if this is the situation, we've got an ACL epidemic this season. The number of ACL injuries, which seems to have affected Italy and Italian players more than any other nation. But again, we've had another ACL now with Alphonso Davies. He might come back now and he's not the same player. We're killing players. We're killing top-class, world-class footballers who are going to return from these injuries, these ACL injuries, as a shadow of their former selves, like Chiesa, Federico Chiesa. There's a Federico Chiesa before the ACL. There's a Chiesa after the ACL. There's a Zaniolo before. There's a Zaniolo after. We might have the same with Alphonso Davies now as well, and that lowers the quality. I was watching an interview last week with Marco Materazzi, who was on our pod a while ago, talking to Rio Ferdinand, and he was saying, and I agree with him completely. He was saying the quality of football in his era, the quality of the players and the individuals, much higher than what we're seeing today. I agree with that 100%.
100%.
But when you add on top of that the fact that the number of games and the fact that the players are being, like you said, killed, the level of the football will go down even further because they don't have the fitness is going to suffer. And we saw that at the Euros last year. I thought it was an abysmal quality of Euros. The standard, the pace that the games were played at, everybody was exhausted. The only team that impressed me was Spain and maybe Germany a little bit. Everybody else, all the other big teams were awful. Italy were awful. France were awful. Even England getting to the final were awful.
They limped to the final.
Yeah, I mean, so like Nima says, I agree with you 100%. I think it's a really important point. This is a massive Champions League between two of the greatest teams in football traditionally. And we are watching a game with a Bayern team that are completely decimated, with their best players that you want to see play in these games, Musiala, Davies not playing, and then against an Inter team who, those that have been watching Inter are a team that look really tired and exhausted right now and haven't got 90 minutes in their legs.
No.
So
and no depth either, because Aslani's suspended, Zelinski's out. In midfield, they have no depth. Fratesi is playing on painkillers. Taremi's going to miss this as well. Arnautovic, we don't know his status. I mean, it's just insane. But if we're looking at this game more specifically and from a tactical point of view, from an Inter perspective, what we've seen, as I said in my post-match reaction to the Milan game, is Inter concede these goals straight down the middle when players like take the ball and break the line and just run through it. Inter don't seem to know how to stop that. Bayern Munich are excellent at that. They're a goal-scoring machine like that. And secondly, Joshua Kimmich cannot be given time on the ball to cross the ball in. Federico Di Marco never closes an opponent down. He just backs off. He needs to be tighter on Kimmich, because if you don't do that, Kimmich is going to just pinpoint crosses from the right to Goretzka running in, to Harry Kane running in. It's going to be a disaster. So they need to close Kimmich down, and they need to do something about these runs centrally down the middle with when players grab the ball and run at Inter, because Inter just don't seem able to stop teams this season when they do that. We've seen Pulisic score. We've seen Milan score pretty much the same goal over and over again this season against Inter. Well, Bayern Munich are a much better team than Milan. I think even Milan fans would agree with that. So, and that's one of their strengths. So this is something they need to look out for sure. Yeah. And Inter need to be efficient. They need to be efficient. They need to go out there and really give everything they've got for 90 minutes. They can't go out there and play one good half and one shit half. They'll be ripped apart. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I think tactically it's a very interesting game, but tactically the game changes because of the absentees of Alphonso Davies and especially Musiala, who I just think is a wonderful player. He's a dream of a player. He's a dream of a player, and as much as I want the Italian team to win, like you said, not being able to watch these two players in a game like this is we've been robbed, as fans of the game. But I think that Bayern's defense is very, you can get to that defense. There's no doubt about it. With the players missing, they don't have Neuer either. This Urbig guy, who seems like a generated player from Championship Manager, Regen. Lima and Guerrero will be fullbacks, but Eric Dyer and Kim at centre back. A Kim that's playing with painkillers. You can get at them with this high defensive line that they play. I guess Lautaro doesn't have the pace. This is where if Inter had a bit more pace, I really would fancy them.
Thuram they have to get Thuram.
Yeah,
they need to get Thuram in the right position, and they need to be clinical. And they can't switch off.
Inter can't make the most of the advantage against this high line with this depleted high line defense that they would do if they had a bit more pace. That's why Thuram, if he can be fully fit Thuram, which I guess he's not, he could really make the most of that. And he's got a good record against Bayern from his days in the Bundesliga with Gladbach as well. So, it's going to be interesting. But Bayern are going to lose a lot in attack without Musiala. Müller will probably play. He's a bit past his best. Then Olise and Sane are still dangerous on the wings, and Kane he's the most complete.
I read a stat. A stat that of all in the last 20 years, he's the Bayern Munich player that has reached 100 goal contributions the fastest in the least amount of games.
Thomas Müller?
No, Kane.
Oh, Kane, yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, yeah.
But Thomas Müller is a legend. Müller is a legend. I know the contract extension soap opera, he's not going to stay there. They've made that official. But he look.
Of course, yeah. You can never rule him out, but he's obviously way past his best.
Yeah.
Well, prediction time. I'm going to be positive here. I'm going to say draw.
Yeah,
for the first leg. Yeah.
I'm hoping for a draw for sure.
But if Inter can be on it, I think they should go for it, because this Bayern team is decimated, and Inzaghi's a better coach than Kompany.
Yeah.
And in a game into situation, if Inzaghi brings his A game, I think he can be tactically he can get the better of Kompany, especially when Kompany now has to problem solve with these injuries. So we need Inzaghi to be at his best as well, because that's where these big games are won in the Champions League. It's the coaches that win these games, not just the players. Right. Let's finish
before we go. Just Fiorentina have to beat Celje. There's no discussion. I just want to warn for Bodö Glimt. Lazio have to be switched on. They can't go into this game against Bodö Glimt not switched on like they were in the round of the last 16. They have to be completely switched on in this game, because the Norwegians can hurt you here.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be greedy here. We need both Lazio and Fiorentina to win all 4 of their games, not just go through with a draw and a win or something like. We want 4 wins, because if we've got any hope of these coefficients, trying to turn these coefficients around, we have to win all the games, not just go through. So win all 4. Right, let's finish off with Baggio, Premface, and Serie ASS of the week. So Baggio, right, I've got, and this is not just on PSG. There's been an outpouring of love all around the football world, inside and outside of Italy, and I think it's been beautiful. And it's something that is beautiful about the football family, and that is this tragic story of this Napoli youth player, Diego De Vivo, who died, I think not last week, the week before, and he was a very promising player in the youth academy, and he collapsed in training on March the 26th in front of his parents as well. And the medical staff rushed to provide first aid, but he sadly passed away. I think 14 years old. I mean, just awful, just absolutely awful. What can you say? But some of the tributes to him within football, beautiful. I mean, Napoli fans in the game against Milan. But then there's this banner that the PSG supporters put up on the weekend as they won the league. It was a tifo of him with the motto "Diego vive, Diego lives." It was, you just have to see it. Just Google it. It was a beautiful, beautiful team. PSG do some amazing tifos, by the way. I have to say they're right up there with the best in football for their banners and their tifos. And it was his funeral, or it is his funeral this week. And his youth teammates went to the training ground and they put the coffin in front of the goal, and they passed the ball onto his coffin and into the net. So he had the final touch, which was really moving, beautiful as well. It's a really sad story, but obviously, I just think the way that everybody come together. I saw some other banners in Serie A as well. Teams doing this weekend as well. But the PSG one really stood out. I thought it was a beautiful tifo.
Just as a secondary, distant second badge of the week, Mergin Vojvoda's goal for Como against Monza was stunning. Just go watch that. It was absolutely beautiful. It was absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it was a great goal.
And Baschirotto almost scoring a brace for Lecce in that game as well was just brilliant. I love how he powered a header and almost scored a second.
I had a bit of criticism because I told Baschirotto, I told you to F off or Baschirotto to F off, include him in your Italy starting 11 last week. When we had a specific
we had a specific game. Like we had a specific one player from every team, Italy national team, but also Palermo Sassuolo in the Serie B was insane. 5-3 it ended. So that's also
and Avellino look like they're going to get promoted to Serie B. So yeah, Avellino, my mum's hometown, is going to be back in Serie B. Now we just need Foggia to do something. Right, Serie AS. No, Premface of the week. Premface of the week. Do you have a Premface?
Yeah, I think I'm going to combine Serie AS and Premface of the week for both of these. Like the first one is what happened in Atalanta's game against Lazio. The Sky Sport Italia reported.
It was confirmed. It was Gasperini confirmed it after the game. Yeah.
He said to his staff, take Ede off, as in Ederson, and they heard take Ade off, as in Ademola Lookman. And he didn't discover it until Lookman was off.
Yeah.
And
he went berserk.
That's just, I mean...
That is some mad... That is Premfacery. That is pretty much... getting the player's name mixed up and confusing two players and...
yeah.
And that probably cost them as well, because they took off an attacker. They'd already taken off Retegui as well. So they needed... But they had one less attacker on the pitch because of it. It's mad.
I mean, it's one of the...
sums up Atalanta as well.
Yeah, it does.
Everything's falling apart.
Serie A of the season. I mean, that is just insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
That is insane. Yeah. So that's... I think that's a combination Premface and Serie A for me.
Yeah. Okay, let's have that. Also, Serie A of the week is Serie A. Every single week we have to have something about Serie A TV rights. Is honestly, these just get sent to us. We don't go out looking for things.
We don't go and find them.
This is how bad they are. So Super Sport during the Roma Lecce game. So it was the Roma game before. We were sent pictures of this. This actually happened. So they didn't make this up. Somehow something went wrong with the broadcast, and the top half of the screen was showing the Roma Lecce game, and the bottom half of the screen was like I quote, a disconnected HDMI cable. So it was just like black at the bottom of the screen, and then the top half of the screen was showing the game. How is that even possible?
I just don't. Yeah.
Maybe that is how they broadcast the games. I mean, in India, there is that Galaxy Racing. I mean, that's a gaming website.
They didn't even have an app.
They didn't even have an app. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the Premface, that woman on the Italian TV quiz show is so good.
Yeah, this is not new, by the way, but this went viral. This went viral last week.
I didn't know when this was. I saw this and I can't stop laughing.
It's basically, there was a question on an Italian quiz show on I think it was on Rai. It was on Italian TV. And the way the quiz show works is that they ask you a question and then they reveal like some letters in the answer already to give you a clue. So the question was, who won their third Scudetto in 2023? And the answer had the N and the I displayed. So you've already got part of the answer. She just had to fill in the rest of the letters and give the answer. And what was the answer that she gave?
Who won the Serie A in 2023?
Nigeria. But Nigeria. To be fair to you, she's not totally wrong, is she?
Victor Osimhen did win it.
Victor Osimhen did kind of win it for them. Yeah. So maybe she was,
She was a Napoli. She was an Osimhen fan who was upset that Kvara was given the MVP unfairly that season when it should have been Osimhen.
But this wasn't the best one ever. Was so funny. There was this time when this lady, who obviously wasn't very qualified for the job, was reading out the results on Italian TV of the Serie A results, and it was very kind of, well, still the way there now on Italian TV, very kind of old-fashioned Berlusconi TV, where she was there reading out the results basically with no clothes on, like literally might as well have not even had any clothes on. It was that like out there basically. So she's reading out the results, the Classifica. She goes to the first result, and the result was it was 1-0, but she reads out 10. She goes Atalanta 10. And then like the guy, like the old guy in the studio was like, no, 1-0, 1-0. Oh, it was brilliant. That was the best one.
There was another. If you ever watch Sport Italia with Tancredi Palmieri and Criscitiello, that it's like it's such a clown show when he's on there and he's got women on there, and I think this woman was inebriated. And I don't know, have you seen this clip?
I've seen many of these.
No, but the last week where he asked her a question, and she, could you tell us what you told me, or what kind of a girl you are, or something? And she said, I'm a whore. And I just fell to the floor, and Criscitiello is like red, his eyes like tears, like he can't stop it. And then she in Tancredi goes, no, he's trying to get the shit back into the horse, and it's just insane.
There's been so many of them on Italian TV. Did you see the one with Penelope Cruz a few years ago, when she's talking? I think she's at a football stadium, and she's been interviewed before the game, and the presenters asking her, like, what's your favorite Italian food? Are you good at cooking? Do you cook Italian food? And she meant to say the word caccio, but she said cazzo instead.
Yeah, but I mean that Italian isn't your language, but Italian TV, when it is your language and stuff like that. And I mean the one of the most iconic things, just Tancredi Palmieri on Sport Italia. It's like this.
It was to get it right. It was cacio e pepe, which is obviously he said cazzo e pepe. Mi piace cazzo e pepe.
Yeah,
if you don't know what the word cazzo means, just Google it.
Google it or something. In your private browser mode, so that you don't get end up in dodgy places. When it comes to Tancredi and Sport Italia, it is hilarious, because some of the golden clips, like this thing where he was in Portugal by the beach. I think he's in Lisbon, and it's a very famous area where lots of drugs are sold, and he's filming, reporting live, and this guy puts a bag of what looks like a suspicious white powder in front of the camera, and Tancredi loses it and starts yelling and saying, "I've got this idiot here with a bag of cocaine in the." And then you got this other thing where he's standing. I think he's in Parma or in Milan, and he's got his tripod with his phone, and he's recording and broadcasting. And this guy is looking, and he walks past it, and the tripod falls down. And you can see for a fraction of the second before it falls down, the look of absolute rage on Tancredi's face at this person. And the woman presenter, that's me. She cannot stop laughing. She is scream laughing at this because it's so comedy.
This is Italy, though. I mean, this is why we love Italy. This is. I mean, I don't want to say this is the good thing about Italy, but it's entertaining.
It's unbelievably entertaining. I don't.
You'll never get this in England. Like this happened once in England, everyone would be cancelled. The TV station would be cancelled. That's it. It's all over. But anyway, Alfredo, our new digital and social media guy, has got a lot of good content to clip up today, hasn't he? From this.
I just want to go before we go. That jacket you're wearing, where's that from?
Oh, this is the 1982 World Cup Italy tracksuit. Yeah, it's a beauty, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm wearing
that one. You're wearing
the
is
Euro 2000 Kappa.
Amazing.
Italy one that I bought in Florence in the year 2000.
Good job that you've been going to the gym to wear that, Nima, because you don't want to wear that shirt if you're not in the.
You can't wear it if you're not fit. And I've lost a lot of weight because I've taken care of myself for the first time in like a decade.
Yeah,
so that's why I felt really good that I could wear this, and it actually looks really good on me now.
Yeah,
and of course, the name and shirt on the back, name and number on the back. Who do you think it is?
Name and number. Did Inter have any players in Euro
no,
2000?
but
I don't think we had many Inter players.
No, but it's Euro 2000. It's the 2000. There's only 2 players that.
Totti,
10? Of course, it has to be Francesco Totti. It can't be anyone else.
It could have been Vieri, but he was injured. Vieri was injured for Euro 2000, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. But there's only one player you can wear with this shirt, and it is number 10 Totti. It's as simple as that. Simple. That or number 3 Maldini. They were the ones who wore this shirt the best. Those 2.
Oh, there was too many. There was too many that wore it well. I think in that tournament. Right. Okay. Let's leave it at that. So thank you everybody for listening, and those of you who have been watching on YouTube. This is our first one that we're doing in video. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back later this week for Q&A, definitely, which will probably be Wednesday or Thursday that will come out. And then we are going to have a post-European
reaction pod,
which
on Thursday. Both of those are for patrons only, which you can sign up on patreon.com/TIFP or a YouTube membership.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, right. Let's leave it at that. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time, ciao, ciao.